Hello, welcome to Tales Unlimited. I'm Marcus V. Calvert. Today I'd like to read a short story from Unheroic Book 1. What is Unheroic Book 1 about? It's a collection of 25 short stories. Think New School Twilight Zone. The vibe is unlikely heroes saving the day. Now, this one is called Three Wishes. First story in the book. What would happen if a comic book geek found a magic lamp? Rubbed it 3 times. What's the worst that could happen? Enjoy. Nick Meblis drunkenly staggered down a darkened stretch of North Carolina beach. The college sophomore wore large khaki shorts, beer-stained leather sandals, and a black X-Men t-shirt over his chubby frame. Snugly fitted around his curly brown head was a pink silk thong. In his right hand was a nearly empty bottle of whiskey. Sounds of loud rap music raged from the beach house a quarter-mile behind him, where day 3 of a 4-day Kegerfest was about to end. Having lost most of his spring break money at poker, Nick decided to take a stroll along the beachfront and find a quaint little spot to throw up. He plopped down on a wet patch of sand and let the waves caress his feet. Feeling nauseously serene, Nick sat back and eyed the clear night sky and its infinite array of stars. As a wave came in, something washed up alongside him. To his booze-blurred vision, it looked like a magic lamp. The golden object was heavy and encrusted with multifaceted jewels. It also hummed with some kind of unseen power. With a giggle, Nick picked the lamp up and rubbed it 3 times, more as a joke than for any rational purpose. A bald djinn suddenly appeared. Stern-faced and regal, the djinn wore hooded red armor with a scimitar along his back. A mix of leather and chainmail, the armor fit loosely over his massive frame. Freed after countless centuries, the djinn breathed in the ocean air and thanked Nick for freeing him. Too drunk to be scared, Nick gave the djinn props on his wardrobe. In his day, the djinn would have lopped Nick's head clean off. Instead, honor demanded that he offer the mortal 3 wishes as a reward. Barely conscious, Nick babbled them forth. Amused by the implications, the djinn granted each one with a chuckle, especially the first 2. Then he opened a white dimensional portal. When Nick asked where it led, the mythical being muttered something to the effect of, "Someplace sane." With a polite nod, the djinn departed. Nick waved goodbye as the ovular portal closed. Then he puked up some of the chili he had eaten earlier. Instead of heading back to the beach house, Nick took the opportunity to pass out. Time passes, of course. The first explosion made Nick groan with minor annoyance. The smell of beer was stronger than that of his dried vomit. It seemed to come from everywhere. The second explosion annoyed him even more. "Kill the TV, will you?" Nick grumbled. The third explosion was close enough to pepper him with sand. That's when Nick sat up and winced at the morning sun above. In spite of his thundering hangover, his eyes widened at the sight before him. The blue-green ocean waters were now beer-colored. It took him a few seconds to realize that it wasn't a chemical spill of some kind. The Atlantic Ocean, for as far as his eyes could see, had turned to beer. Nick's jaw dropped with thoughtless joy. Free beer was free beer, regardless of the circumstances. He reached down to scoop some up when a 4th explosion knocked him down. Dazed, he turned around and gawked some more. Comic book heroes were slugging it out with comic book villains. Dozens of them were fighting all around him. They were all flesh and blood, down to their assorted costumes, most of which were spandex-based. He recognized almost all of the combatants, from the noble Argonite to the downright evil feminazi. Some had brute strength, others had energy blasts, more than a few fought with assorted weaponry. From the way things were looking, the heroes were outnumbered 4-1, and they were losing? That never happened in the comics. Nick wondered what the slugfest was about. Gorilla Girl ran toward him on all 4s. The green-furred mutated heroine dodged a few energy blasts, stray gunfire, and a mystical fireball. Just as she was about to tell Nick something, Gorilla Girl got blindsided by a well-thrown hammer. Ribs cracked, she went flying. Nick spotted the black metal hammer which landed near her broken form. It vaguely resembled a blacksmith's hammer, only larger, with multiple gadgets built into it. One of them allowed the hammer to fly right back into the hand of its creator. The 9-foot-tall cyber-barbarian wielded the hammer with his left hand and a massive single-edged axe in his right. Blade Hammer sneered at Nick, and then moved in on Gorilla Girl, who tried to crawl away. Unable to help her, Nick could only avert his eyes as the axe came down. Savoring the next kill, Blade Hammer turned a wild eye toward Nick. "Dying time, kid." Blade Hammer began to gloat, only to break out into a sudden fit of uncontrollable sneezing. Neither of them knew that Gorilla Girl's fur induced violent allergic reactions to 1 in 2,000 people. Undaunted, the villain breathed through his mouth and continued to advance. Among the debris and nearby corpses, Nick felt the butt of a large ray gun-like weapon. He desperately grabbed it. Blade Hammer rushed in with barbaric battle cries. Nick closed his eyes and pulled the trigger. The weapon's bluish beam of energy hit Blade Hammer square in the chest, encasing him in ice. After the shot, the weapon's barrel emitted a smoking white gas which cooled the surrounding air by 30 degrees. Caught in his violent pose, the only things that Blade Hammer could move were his eyes, which angrily followed Nick as he stood up. "Sweet!" Nick grinned as he got up, aping Blade Hammer's cocky sneer. Nick pulled the trigger again. The young man's grin died when the weapon beeped a red light, indicating an empty power cell. As Nick uttered profanities and tossed the gun over his left shoulder, Darkhound raced straight at him from behind. Zipping through the raging battle, the crimson-skinned hellhound had 6 legs and a barbed tail. Nick never saw the beast coming. Then the ray gun landed in Darkhound's path. The hellhound stopped in its tracks, seized by an unbreakable urge. The only thing it liked more than tearing apart human flesh was the cold, something not very abundant in its native hell. The bloodthirsty hellhound affectionately curled up around the cold object and whimpered with joy, wanting to be someplace else. Nick wisely started to run away. As he looked for an opening, Feminazi tripped him up. The psycho villain pointed a pair of machine guns at his chest and shling! Samurai Lu's mystical katana cut through both weapons with ease. Feminazi eyed the Eurasian hero with disbelief as he then punched her in the temple. The blow sent her to the sand, barely conscious. The samurai slapped some sand out of his traditional-style red and blue armor as he looked around. "We have to destroy the lamp," Samurai Lu yelled with a thick Japanese accent. Sorry, I kind of suck at those. "Lamp? What lamp?" Nick yelped with confusion. Before the hero could reply, Samurai Lu's eyes widened. He then shoved Nick aside and one-handedly parried 8 expertly thrown daggers. 4 Deathgrin ninja moved in for the kill. They wore matching black garb with metal, grinning masks over their faces. They readied more daggers as Samurai Lu rushed in to protect Nick. As they went at it, Nick suddenly remembered last night and the magic lamp. Looking around, he spotted it in the dead villain's hands, a mere 10 feet away. Samurai Lu gutted 1 masked ninja, beheaded a second, and slashed a third across the belly. But the 4th one threw black acid powder into Samurai Lu's face. Blinded, the samurai stifled a scream as the substance melted through his skin. The hero stubbornly swung at the last ninja, who deftly avoided Lu's blade twice more before jamming a pair of daggers into the hero's throat. The ninja watched Samurai Lu die, then ominously turned toward Nick. "Oh, shit!" Nick exclaimed as he turned and ran for the lamp. That's when he saw Feminazi stumble to her feet with a determined scowl. Holstered across her back was a high-tech shotgun. Even though she was seeing double, the villainess couldn't miss at this range. She fired on Nick at full auto. Behind him, the lone Deathgrin ninja threw a fan-like array of daggers with his right hand. Neither killer should have missed the chubby sophomore at that range. Nick closed his eyes and covered his face with a whimper. During the futile act, Feminazi's gunfire and the ninja's daggers whizzed past him. Feminazi gasped as two daggers found her chest. The ninja flew backward with a trio of gaping holes in his chest. Unharmed, Nick opened his eyes a few seconds later. Hope sprouted across his face as he rushed toward the lamp and picked it up. Before Nick could ponder on how to destroy it, Brick landed nearby. In his crimson-hued costume and cape, the villain made pro bodybuilders look small. "Give me the lamp," scowled the villain. "How about a punch instead?" asked a third voice. Brick turned around just in time to get clocked in the jaw. The shockwave sent Nick and anyone else in the vicinity flying. Clad in his own blue and white cape costume, Argonite was slightly smaller than Brick. As the two super strong badasses threw down, Nick knew that Brick would win. The Argonite was the most powerful superhero in this comics universe. Brick was his main nemesis, the only villain who outmuscled him. In the comics, whenever there was a straight-up fight between the two, Brick always won. It usually required teamwork and luck to bring the evil bastard to justice. Right now, they traded blows so fast that Nick's eyes couldn't follow them all. Then Brick knocked Argonite into the sky. Massaging his right fist, the villain turned on Nick and paused for an aching moment. Brick worked his jaw for a few more seconds, then spat out a bloody tooth. "I'll take that," Brick threatened. "What good is it to you?" Nick asked as he slowly backed away. "I've used up the wishes." "Power," Brick replied as he snatched the lamp. "You freed a djinn. If I kill you in the presence of the lamp, you'll take his place, which will recharge the lamp." Nick quivered. "Glad you can keep up, kid," Brick mocked as he grabbed Nick by the throat. "I think we'll get along just fine." With ease, the villain lifted Nick off his feet until they were at eye level. "Then I'll get 3 wishes for myself," ranted the villain. "And I won't wish for comic book characters, Budweiser oceans, or to be the luckiest man alive. I'll wish for what matters, boy. Power." Before Nick could beg for his life, Brick snapped his neck like a potato chip. A half-second later, Argonite slammed into Brick from above and rained thousands of punches upon him in the space of 5 seconds. A final overhand right from Argonite put the murderous villain down with a shattered jaw and 4 more missing teeth. Bruised and exhausted, the costumed champion looked over his shoulder and watched the last of his fellow heroes fall. 20 supervillains moved toward the lamp, all eager to be the one who claimed its wishes. Only Argonite stood in their way. The caped hero knew that others would come for the lamp, both good and evil. Like everyone else, he had rushed through the night to get here. Right now, he was humanity's last hope. How he knew about Nick, the djinn, or the lamp didn't matter. What did was that he returned things back to normal. If not, humanity would be threatened by countless world-ending threats. Even with real superheroes around, Argonite knew that they couldn't stop them all. Not in the real world. And there was that beer ocean thing. Argonite slapped his gloved hands together with more force than a Category 5 hurricane. The resulting shockwave hurled the remaining villains backward. Half buried by sand, the villains were out of the fight. The hero picked up the lamp and rubbed it 3 times. Nick's soul appeared next to his corpse in the same clothes he died in. Visibly shaken, the newly minted djinn looked down at his corpse and yelled a girlish scream. "Am I dead?" Nick asked. "Yes," Argonite urgently replied. "You are the djinn now. I have 3 wishes. Grant them so I can save the day." Nick nodded and then turned to face the ocean. "I can't believe I turned the oceans of the world into Budweiser." "Me neither," the Argonite replied straight-faced. "What's wrong with Guinness?" For a moment, the fictional hero and Nick shared a grin. Then Argonite was all business again. "My first wish is that all 3 of your wishes are completely reversed after my 3rd wish. Second, I wish that all magic lamps on this world cease to be after my 3rd wish. And third, A glowing red spear savagely exited through Argonite's stomach. Spear grinned as his intangible body turned corporeal. Essentially a living thought, The villain twisted his psychic fighting spear to worsen the damage. Blood came out of Argonite's mouth as he dropped the lamp and fell to his knees. The skinny villain whipped his psychic weapon free and dispelled it with a whim. Argonite's blood sprayed in all directions, including the villain's gray and black uniform. No third wishes for you, Spear spat as he stepped over the dying hero and moved to pick up the lamp with his free hand. Argonite gasped his third wish, something so barely audible that only Nick could hear it. But it was enough. With a smile, Nick granted it. More time passes. Nick jumped awake under the early dawn light. He looked around and saw only his liquor bottle, the dried vomit, and the beautiful blue-green waters of the Atlantic. He pulled the panties off his head and tossed them aside. What a god-awful dream, Nick yawned with a relieved smile. The hungover superhero sipped the last of the sun-warmed whiskey. Once it was gone, he tossed the bottle and rose to his feet. A cool morning breeze hit him as he stepped over the vomit and stumbled for the beach house to take a long and meaningful piss. Overhead, Argonite smiled down at Nick and flew away toward the rising sun. Thank you. That is just one of 25 stories in Unheroic, Book 1. Please look at the link below. It'll lead you to our website, which will lead you to Amazon, where there are more books, also from the Tales Unlimited line. There are multiple series. Fascinating reads. And over time, they will be read by yours truly. Basically, I'm kind of new at this, but don't worry, I'll get better as I go. And please like, subscribe, tell your friends, and comments are welcome. Enjoy your day.